What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So, I have never made a video about cryptocurrency before, but I've been getting so many questions on this topic, and specifically about Dogecoin. Now, stop really quick because I can already feel some of you leaving your angry comments because I'm not riding Dogecoin to the moon, but don't worry, today I want to look at both sides of the coin and give you an unbiased perspective on whether or not you are missing out on the investment opportunity of a lifetime, or if investing in something like Dogecoin will completely destroy your investment portfolio. So none of today's video is investing advice by any means, but I want to at least try to help you to navigate all of this cryptocurrency madness so that you can make the best financial decisions for you. All right, let's jump right into it. Okay, so obviously by the title of this video, you can tell that I'm personally not going all in on Dogecoin. And while I am by no means an expert on all things cryptocurrency or blockchain, I have spent a lot of time studying and wrote an entire thesis about the psychology of investing. And it is my belief that your fear of missing out on something like Dogecoin can not only negatively affect and impact your finances, but also have a huge impact on your entire mentality when it comes to investing. Okay, but before we get to that, what in the world is Dogecoin? Well, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you have heard about it at some point over the past few months. But to give you a really quick 10-second breakdown, Dogecoin is a form of cryptocurrency, just like Bitcoin. And a cryptocurrency is a decentralized currency that is built on what's called a blockchain. Now, Bitcoin in particular is the largest by market cap and is probably the most well-known, but there have been thousands of alternative coins called altcoins that have popped up on the market, and Dogecoin falls into that category. But the reason that everyone is talking about it recently is in the past year, Dogecoin is up over 20,000% at the time of recording this video, and has seen significant increases in just the past few weeks alone. So now, this cryptocurrency that was literally started as a joke with a Shiba Inu as its mascot has become one of the largest cryptocurrencies in the world in terms of market cap, and has made a lot of people a lot of money. But if that's the case, then what's not to like? Well, I want to make it clear that personally, I am a big fan of the overall concept of cryptocurrencies, and I think that the widespread adoption of this sort of thing in terms of using it as a payment method is very likely to come in the future. And I have personally owned Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and yes, even Dogecoin. So I'm not just giving you some outside perspective of someone who's just bitter about missing out on those huge returns like many of the naysayers. However, it is very important that we separate between the utility of actual cryptocurrencies that are actually being used as a form of payment and an altcoin that was literally started as a joke and is being viewed as an investment by most people. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with this sort of thing. And that's exactly why investing in something like Dogecoin will very likely destroy your investment portfolio. Okay, so like I said, Dogecoin is a form of cryptocurrency, and the important part there is currency, meaning this is meant to be used as a form of payment, just like the dollar bill, the euro, or any other foreign currency. And for a lot of the blockchain nerds out there who are all in on cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they aren't just buying in the hopes that it's going to skyrocket in price overnight. In fact, with a lot of them, it's actually the complete opposite of that. I'm not saying they hope it goes down in value, of course, but what I mean by this is many of the individuals who truly understand blockchain and believe in the system as a whole are hoping that that sort of thing is widely adopted in the future. But in order for that to happen, these volatile ups and downs are definitely going to have to go by the wayside in order for the average business to accept something like Dogecoin or Ethereum as a form of payment. But that's easier said than done because, again, this is an unregulated currency, and the term that we often hear thrown around is decentralized. And while that might sound really flashy and modern, and it definitely has its benefits, there are some huge advantages to having a higher power that ensures a consistent monetary system. I mean, can you even imagine what would happen to the economy if something like the US dollar would just double in value overnight before crashing back down to half of its original value? The true cost to buy certain goods would be constantly going up and down because the dollar bill that you were using to buy that particular good is changing in value as well, and that would send the entire economy into a tailspin. And I know that sounds like an extreme, insane example, but you don't have to look very far to find examples of something just like that throughout history in other countries. Okay, so that's cool and all, but what in the world does all of this have to do with Dogecoin destroying your investment portfolio? Well, like I said earlier, I am by no means a cryptocurrencies expert, but I do know a lot about the psychology strategy of investing. And I've talked about it many times before and why it is so important to limit your emotions and have the right mentality when it comes to making investment-related decisions. But the thing is, for most people, it's nearly impossible to remove or even reduce your emotions if you're investing any significant amount of money into something like Dogecoin that is so volatile. But the real danger, in my opinion, actually comes when you become desensitized to this level of volatility. I mean, let's say you put $1,000 in Dogecoin and it loses 30% overnight. Well, you just lost $300, and that probably hurt pretty bad, and most people would likely just cut their losses and move on. But what happens is you become desensitized to that literal feeling of pain, and the amount of risk that you are taking on suddenly doesn't feel like that big of a deal because it's familiar to you. And perhaps this is an extreme analogy, but in a lot of cases, this is the exact same thing that happens to individuals who gamble away all of their money. They might start off by losing just $100, for example, but they feel like rolling the dice again one more time, it means that they'll make that money back and then some. But number one, they usually continue to lose more money, and number two, every time they roll the dice, it becomes a little bit easier to just risk it all in hopes of it panning out in their favor. And it's that right there that can be so damaging to your entire mentality when it comes to investing. But the crazy part is, it can have an even worse effect in the opposite direction. What I mean by this is, let's say you invested that same $1,000 and it went up 30% overnight. Well, dang, you just made $300 without doing anything, and that probably triggered the release of dopamine and other chemicals in your brain that are now going to make you want to roll the dice again in the future. But this time, not only are you desensitized to the level of risk that you took and got lucky, but in the future, getting a return of, say, 8% per year is just not gonna cut it for you because you just experienced the feeling of making 30% overnight. So the thought of making 8% for the entire year is probably really boring to you. And as someone who personally believes in building up your investing mentality, I can recognize the fact that desensitizing yourself to this level of risk and volatility can be so damaging regardless of whether you made $1 million in Dogecoin or lost $1 million. Alright, so that's all well and good, but how can you get over that fear of missing out that I'm sure all of us have experienced as we've seen these cryptocurrencies skyrocket in price? Well, again, I am an advocate for the idea of cryptocurrencies as a whole, but that viewpoint comes from a place of seeing the actual utility of cryptocurrencies as a form of currency, and not from a viewpoint of investing in it. So while this is absolutely not investment advice by any means, if you do want to have a little bit of fun and roll the dice, then by all means go for it. But the important thing is to keep that as a fraction of a percentage of your overall portfolio. And what I mean by this is if you have $100,000 invested in total, then don't be like Pro the Doge and throw everything in the Dogecoin because sure, it panned out for him, but it could have very easily gone in the other direction. And he's now really desensitized to the level of risk that he took on, and earning any kind of average return in the market after experiencing something like that and making millions of dollars in a matter of months is just going to lead him to take on more risky investments in the future. And there are countless psychological studies that back this prediction of future behavior. So again, this is not investing advice by any means, but if you're thinking about dabbling in some of these cryptocurrencies, then I'm not necessarily saying that it's a bad thing, but you absolutely want to be keeping it as a very small percentage of your overall portfolio. And really that goes with any asset if you want to have a diversified portfolio across the board. I know for me, it's fun to put just $100 into this sort of thing and see if it'll turn into $150 or $200. And if I lose that $100, then yeah, that'll hurt, but it's no worse than just gambling it away at a casino. But the important thing is that I'm just putting a little bit of money in to have some fun, because just throwing it in there and hoping that it goes up is not an investment strategy. One last thing that I want to share with you that will hopefully give you some good perspective on all of this, not only with Dogecoin, but really any asset that skyrockets in price in a short period of time, is the potential for upside at this point is so much smaller than the potential for upside that people saw months ago, which is what brought a lot of attention to Dogecoin in the first place. Okay, but what the heck do I mean by that? Well, like I said at the beginning of the video, Dogecoin is up over 20,000% just in the past year. And a lot of people are probably looking at that and thinking, well, it's only 50 cents right now, and if it becomes the next Bitcoin, then you're still getting in really early. But even if Dogecoin went to something like $10, which is a really extreme example from the roughly 50 cents that it's at currently, then that means that it would only be an increase of 2,000%, which sounds amazing, and it is, but my point here is that it already increased 20,000% in the past year alone. So thinking that you're going to get another 20,000% or more is unfortunately not how this sort of pump and dump thing works. So I am sure that my take on all of this is probably a little unpopular with some of you, but I would love to hear what all of you think of Doge and all of these other cryptocurrencies down in the comment section below, and why you feel they are a fantastic form of investment, or why you feel they will completely destroy your investment portfolio. As always, if you did get value out of this content and you want to help support me, it would mean a lot to me if you would hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who you think would get value out of this content as well. And of course, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.